Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis has released his message for the annual World Day of the Poor, saying that a great river of poverty is traversing our cities. His message for the day, which is observed on Sunday, November the 19th, takes the form of a lengthy analysis of the Book of Tobit in the Old Testament. In it, the Holy Father calls on every Christian to get personally involved in the fight against poverty and to be sensitive to the concerns of the underprivileged. He says the river of poverty is swelling to the point of overflowing. The Pope insists no one should turn their eyes away from a poor person, since doing so would prohibit them from seeing the face of the Lord Jesus. At least 10 people were killed as Russian missiles hit civilian buildings in an overnight attack on Tuesday in the central Ukrainian city of Kryvyi Rih. The city's governor, Serhiy Lyshak, said cruise missiles hit a 5-story building, killing many and injuring 28. Rescue efforts to save people trapped under the rubble are ongoing. The destruction in President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown is one of the latest acts of violence in Ukraine following the Russian invasion in February last year. Images shared by Mr. Zelensky show firefighters battling the blaze. Bishop Nuno Almeida of Bragança-Miranda in Portugal is praying for the speedy recovery of Pope Francis and the preparations taking place for World Youth Day in Lisbon. During the vigil of a pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady of Fatima, Bishop Almeida said that he remains especially united with the Holy Father, praying for his intentions and his health. The pontiff has been hospitalised at Rome's Gemelli Hospital since the 7th of June, when he underwent intestinal surgery. The Holy See Press Office said the Pope continues to recover while devoting his time to work, reading and prayer. Bishop Almeida also invited pilgrims to join young people from the whole world in preparation for World Youth Day. The event will take place in Lisbon from the 1st to the 6th of August with the theme Mary arose and went with haste. The words of hope of the head of the Catholic Church have now reached outer space. A rocket carrying a satellite with a tiny nanobook took off from Vandenberg Space Base in California on Tuesday. The nanobook contains Pope Francis's message of global unity, which he delivered in a rain-soaked St. Peter's Square on March the 27th in 2020, as the COVID pandemic was raging. The small silicon plate measures 2 by 2 millimeters and contains a binary code engraving of the Pope's words, as well as photographs. The satellite will be positioned 525 kilometers above the Earth and will fly over areas on the surface of the planet at the same local solar time. Each time it rises, those connected to the 437.5 MHz frequency can be reached with the Pope's words. The high-tech systems of the satellite were blessed by the Pontiff himself on the 29th of March, and they reached space via the Falcon 9 rocket. Space Satellis, or Guardian of Hope, is the name of the space mission, which is being promoted by the Vatican's Dicastery for Communication. Head of the United Nations, António Guterres, is urging nations to take the warnings about the dangers of artificial intelligence seriously, with particular emphasis on generative AI. This is an artificial intelligence system that can produce text, graphics, and other types of media. Speaking on Monday, Mr. Guterres warned that the growth of artificial intelligence is currently driving conflict, death, and destruction around the world. He said that hate speech and disinformation on digital platforms are threatening democracy and human rights, as well as undermining public health and climate action. The UN Secretary-General claimed that while social media platforms have helped communities get through disasters, they have also turned into a source of dread rather than hope. In the United States, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed 4 bills into law to empower parents during the 88th regular legislative session at the Capitol on Tuesday. The transformative package of 4 parent empowerment bills gives parents access to course curriculum and allows them to determine if their child should repeat a grade level. The laws also permit parents to remove inappropriate books from school libraries. Mr. Abbott tweeted that schools are for education, not indoctrination, and parents deserve access to the curriculum, school libraries, and what their children are taught. Parents of students with special needs will also be empowered with the tools and resources they need to provide their children with the best education. An Italian pro-life and family group has denounced an attack on its office in Rome. The Pro Vita and Familia Association's headquarters faced acts of violence and insults on the 12th of June. The attack came 2 days after a demonstration in Rome where the pro-life association was verbally abused by the leader of a homosexual group. The president of the pro-life group, Jacopo Koge, said the statement by the leader of the group had facilitated the hate climate that triggered the attack against the office. Although the security gates of the headquarters of the pro-life group were covered with graffiti, its head asserted that they would continue working toward their objectives. A Nicaraguan court has announced the immobilization and confiscation of the properties of former political prisoners who were forced into exile in February. In a recently released ruling, the court ordered the government seizure of all the former prisoners' assets and shares. Earlier this year, the appeals court declared 222 people to be traitors and ordered their immediate deportation to the United States. The court also stripped their nationality before they were forced to board a flight to the US. The group included 7 former presidential candidates, lawyers, human rights activists and journalists. Meanwhile, former presidential candidate Felix Maradiaga has denounced the Daniel Ortega dictatorship's move, calling it a severe violation of fundamental human rights. At least 100 people are feared drowned and several others are missing after an overloaded boat capsized in north-central Nigeria. As per residents, the wooden boat was ferrying people across a river to Kwara State after a wedding ceremony in neighbouring Niger State when it capsized. The police spokesperson said that more than 100 passengers were rescued. It was unclear how many people were on the boat, but the Kwara State government said they were from 5 different villages. Witnesses reported that while the boat was returning, it hit a big log in the water and split into 2. Boat accidents are common in Nigeria due to poor maintenance and overcrowding. The Catholic bishops of the United States of America are spending some time in prayer and dialogue with one another as they have come together for the 2023 Spring Plenary Assembly in Orlando. The plenary began on the 14th of June and will conclude on the 16th of the month. The proceedings of the gathering will be live streamed on the website of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, or USCCB. The gathering was addressed by Apostolic Nuncio to the United States, Archbishop Christophe Pierre, and the head of the American Episcopate, Archbishop Timothy Broglio of the Archdiocese for the Military Services. The bishops will provide updates on the Eucharistic Revival Initiative in progress and the ongoing preparations for the National Eucharistic Congress that will take place next year in Indianapolis. They will also vote on several items, including the causes of the beatification and canonization of 5 diocesan priests of Shreveport Diocese, also known as the Shreveport Martyrs. In the United States, pro-lifers are accusing New York Attorney General Letitia James of intimidating those who support the sanctity of life and trying to suppress free speech. This comes after Ms. James filed a lawsuit against a pro-life group and requested the U.S. Court of the Southern District of New York to prevent its members from going within 30 feet of an abortion facility. The move was aimed at Red Rose Rescue, whose members sometimes enter abortion clinics and discourage mothers from terminating their pregnancy. They also provide them with resources that help them through the pregnancy. The Attorney General told the court that members of the group frequently trespass on abortion facilities and prevent access to those who seek abortion. She cited 3 incidents while accusing Red Rose Rescue members of violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. The ancient Church of the East is celebrating the installation of Mar Gawargis Yunan as its new patriarch. Mar Yunan assumed the office of the Iraq-based church in a ceremony held at the Holy Mary Cathedral in the nation's capital city Baghdad on the 9th of June. The Church of the East split off from the Assyrian Church in 1960. Both churches follow the East Syriac liturgy of Saints Adai Mari and Nestorius. They also claim to be the successors of the Church of the East, which dates back to apostolic times. Mar Yunan was born in Iraq, but later moved to the United States, where he has been living ever since. The new patriarch is an alumnus of the University of Loyola in Chicago. The head of the Chaldean Catholic Church, Patriarch Louis Raphael Sacco, paid a visit to Mar Yunan after his appointment and wished him a fruitful tenure in office. On Tuesday, the United Nations cautioned that the ongoing crisis in Sudan has increased the threat of racial violence and crimes against humanity. UN Secretary-General António Guterres expressed his grave concern over the growing ethnic dimension of the conflict, in addition to the widespread bloodshed in the Darfur region of the African nation. More than 1 million people have been forced to flee their homes as a result of fighting between the Sudanese armed forces and a breakaway military group called the Rapid Support Forces, which broke out in mid-April. In addition, communities continue to experience acute food shortages, limited access to medical supplies, restrictions on leaving combat zones, and reports of sexual assaults against women and against girls. UN Special Representative for Sudan, Volker Perthes, said the security, human rights and humanitarian situations are rapidly deteriorating in the Greater Khartoum, Darfur and Kordofan areas. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more, and do remember you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.